Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're zeroing in on Coinbase, the big crypto exchange. They're facing a whole raft of lawsuits right now.
Yeah, it's quite the situation.
And the spark seems to be this data breach they just disclosed.
Exactly. That's the catalyst for all this legal heat.
So for this deep dive, we've looked at the news reports flying around, focusing particularly on what Cointelegraph laid out. The aim here really is to try and unpack what this breach and these lawsuits actually mean for you if you're a Coinbase user, and maybe for crypto security, well, overall.
Absolutely. And it's more than just a simple, oops, we got hacked scenario. It feels like a domino effect. You've got this breach, which crucially seems to involve insiders.
Right. We'll get into that.
And this big extortion demand, and now, bam, a whole wave of lawsuits. It really makes you question the weak points, even in these huge established platforms, and how they react when things go wrong.
Okay, let's dive right into that then. The breach itself. Coinbase went public with this May 15th.
May 15th, yeah.
And what really jumped out, reading the reports, was how it happened. Not your standard cyber attack, was it?
No, and that's really key here. It points to a pretty worrying weak spot, bribed customer support agents. So instead of hackers breaking in from the outside, the bad actors apparently paid off insiders, people with legitimate access, to leak user data.
Wow.
It really shines a light on, the insider threat problem, which is a huge deal for any company handling sensitive info.
Paying off employees.
Yeah.
That's bold. And the reports mentioned a pretty hefty extortion demand, too, $20 million.
That's the figure, yeah.
Huh.
$20 million, which Coinbase said they refused to pay.
Okay.
But what's also significant is what Coinbase plans to do now. They've said they'll reimburse users hit by phishing scams because of this leaked data. And the estimated cost for that, it's massive, somewhere between $180 million and $400 million.
Oof. That's a huge potential hit. And it seems like there were immediate consequences internally, too. Something about agents in India being fired.
Yes. Reports mentioned dismissals there, allegedly linked to their involvement in social engineering attacks.
So tricking people, basically.
Exactly. Manipulating people to get information or get them to do things they shouldn't. It fits the pattern, right? If you have stolen user data, you can use it for very targeted social engineering.
Right. Makes sense.
It suggests some, potentially serious failures in internal checks and monitoring.
Okay, so let's get specific about the data. What exactly got out? What kind of user info are we talking about?
Well, according to the Cointelegraph piece, it was pretty extensive. You're looking at names, home addresses, phone numbers, email addresses,
basics,
but also the last 4 digits of social security numbers. And then it gets even more sensitive, things like some bank account identifiers, copies of driver's licenses, passports.
Whoa, passports.
Yeah, and snapshots of account balances, plus transaction histories.
That is a lot. That's incredibly sensitive stuff. Personal, financial, the potential for real damage there must be huge. Identity theft, fraud.
Absolutely. Yeah. This isn't just, your email address leaking. These are core pieces of your identity. Put them together, and criminals have a powerful toolkit. And like some of the lawsuits are arguing, the damage isn't just immediate.
Right.
It could be long-term, maybe even permanent in terms of risk. Yeah. Think about trying to get credit later or just the ongoing threat.
Which, I guess, brings us directly to the lawsuits. So the report said at least 6 filed almost immediately, like May 15th, May 16th.
Yeah, incredibly fast. Almost simultaneous with the news breaking, it seems.
That speed says something.
It does.
Yeah.
It shows real urgency from users or their lawyers. And the core argument, kind of running through all of them, it's basically that Coinbase allegedly dropped the ball on security, didn't have strong enough protections.
Okay. And
then maybe made things worse by how they handled it afterwards, the response, the notification to users.
Yeah, the Cointelegraph article mentioned one specific lawsuit, Paul Bender in New York. Seems like it covered a lot of ground.
That's right. The Bender suit claims Coinbase failed to protect the PII, the personally identifiable information of millions, sensitive stuff. And it criticized the response, calling it, I think the quote was, inadequate, fragmented, and delayed.
Fragmented and delayed. So basically saying users weren't told quickly or clearly enough what was going on.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. That Coinbase didn't act fast enough to limit the harm.
And that suit really stressed the danger, didn't it? Talked about a substantial, immediate, and ongoing threat of identity theft and financial fraud.
It definitely paints a serious picture of the risk. And apparently, other lawsuits in that same New York court made very similar points.
Okay.
Then there was a fourth one that added another layer. Unjust enrichment.
Unjust enrichment. How does that fit in?
The argument there as reported, is that maybe Coinbase profited or saved money by not spending enough on security, skimping on protecting data, basically.
Huh. That's an interesting accusation, connecting profit motive to this security failure.
It is. And then there was a fifth lawsuit. This went out in California. It asked for more than just money.
Ooh, like what?
Well, damages, obviously. But also for the court to order Coinbase to actually delete the sensitive data of the people suing.
Purge the data, okay.
And importantly, to hire outside third-party security auditors to come in and check everything over.
Right, so not just taking Coinbase's word for it that things are fixed. That suggests a real trust issue, maybe.
It certainly points towards a desire for independent verification after a breach like this. Prove that things are secure now.
And through all this, Coinbase itself, they haven't commented directly on the lawsuits, just pointed to a blog post.
That seems to be the case, yeah. Directing people to a general post about the breaches, not addressing the specific legal claims head on.
That feels a bit quiet, given how serious these suits are. Could that backfire, you think? Even if it's, like, standard legal advice?
It's possible. I mean, lawyers often advise saying less during litigation. But from a public relations standpoint, yeah, staying silent while users are worried and suing, it might not help rebuild trust. It could raise more questions about how transparent they're being.
Okay, let's shift a bit. How did the market take all this news? Coinbase stock, CoinIN, what happened there?
Well, initially there was a hit. The stock dropped about 7% down to $244.
Makes sense. Bad news, potential huge payouts.
Exactly. That's pretty typical knee-jerk reaction for a public company facing a big data breach and lawsuits.
But then it bounced back, surprisingly quickly.
It did, yeah. By the end of the next day, May 16th, it wasn't just back, it was up. 9% higher, around $266.
Wow. Why the quick recovery, do you think?
Hard to say for sure. Could be a few things. Maybe the market decided the potential cost, that $180, $400 million range, were already kind of priced in.
Possibly.
Or maybe it just got caught up in broader positive market movement that day, kind of overshadowing the bad news for Coinbase specifically. Or maybe investors still see long-term value despite this.
And the article also threw in some context, reminding us about an ongoing SEC probe from back in 2021 about user numbers.
Yeah, that's important background. It shows this breach, and the lawsuits aren't happening in a vacuum. Coinbase has faced other regulatory scrutiny and challenges before this. It adds to the overall picture of the pressures they're under.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together. What we've got is Coinbase had a serious data breach, not from outside hackers, but bribed employees.
Right, the insider threat.
Leading to a lot of very sensitive user data getting exposed, names, addresses, IDs, financial info.
A wide range, yeah.
Then, almost immediately, a flood of lawsuits, at least 6, claiming Coinbase was negligent, didn't protect the data, didn't respond well.
Alleging failures on multiple fronts.
The stock took an initial dive, but then recovered fast. And this is all happening while they've still got that older SEC thing simmering in the background?
That sums it up pretty well. The key things for you to remember are really the nature of the breach insiders and the sheer volume of sensitive data involved. And, of course, the immediate, strong legal reaction. The potential impact on the users whose data is now out there. Well, it's serious and could last a long time.
It really does underscore the risk, doesn't it? Even with a huge name like Coinbase. You trust these platforms with so much.
Immense amounts of sensitive data.
And when that trust is broken, whether it's a tech failure or, like here, a human failure, the consequences can be massive.
Which really leads to the final thought, I suppose. For you, listening to this, we keep seeing these breaches, right, across all sorts of companies. Now, a major one in crypto linked to insiders.
Yeah, it feels constant sometimes.
So it really forces the question,
Yeah.
What can you actually do proactively to protect your own digital footprint, your assets, your personal info? Especially
in this crypto world, which has its own unique risks.
Exactly. How do you navigate this? Where do you draw the line on what data you share? It's something everyone needs to be thinking about more, I think.